Welcome to the October 2023 DMI Advocacy Update. I'm Jason Elster, president of Downtown Madison, Inc. We're excited to have another conversation with a leader here in downtown Madison with all things downtown. We have Deputy Mayor Dr. Linda Vakunta with us. She's going to talk about the mayor's priorities and the priorities for downtown here with a great conversation. We should also mention Dr. Vakunta is a DMI board member, so we're excited to talk all things downtown. As you know, this advocacy series is a greater opportunity to learn more about what's happening in DMI with our advocacy work, our initiatives, and our priorities, and get a deeper dive in some of the most pressing issues impacting downtown. We are very, very thankful for our sponsors. Our presenting series sponsor today is Sinair. They're the major series sponsor, and they have been since the beginning of the Advocacy Update. We're going to hear from Chris Gillings, Senior Vice President of Business Development, in a few minutes here, but thank you to Sinair. We also have our supporting series sponsors, the Fiore Companies and Hush Blackwell. Again, thank you to Sinair, Fiore Companies, and Hush Blackwell for all you do for downtown and for DMI. We're going to go over several advocacy updates, things that are happening with the organization right now. DMI is involved in several different pods of activity, but we're going to highlight a few in particular to make sure that our members are up to date with what's happening with DMI's advocacy in downtown. First, just a few weeks ago, we welcomed Department of Administration, State of Wisconsin Secretary Kathy Blumenfeld to our What's Up Downtown breakfast, where she discussed the state's Vision 2030. The state's Vision 2030 is a discussion and a proposal for what to do with this much of the state land here in downtown. And the state has some big plans, including moving out of Jeff 2 and Jeff 3 and the state office building on Wilson Street. And DMI is watching this issue very closely. We're excited to hear that everything is still on track for these, including the sale of both Jeff 2 and 3 to the private market, in which they're already getting many inquiries about, which was positive to say. That could be turned into a myriad of different uses, and then a reinvention of what happens on the state office building on West Wilson Street. Certainly the loss of some state government employees is difficult for downtown, but I have to say this is a time to reimagine our downtown and create more multi-use, potentially housing, office, lab space. Many things could happen on these two very large and important parcels in activity in downtown development areas that are already quite busy. In fact, just kitty corner from Jeff 2 and Jeff 3, the city owns the Brayton lot, and the city is going to be putting a request for proposals for developers sometime in Q1 of 2024 to redevelop that site. So you can see between these two sites, we could see a dramatically different eastern side of the Capitol Square. We're going to follow this issue very closely, and we were thankful for Secretary Blumenfeld's advocacy for redoing this area and for her continued communication with Downtown Madison, Inc. on this subject. We've discussed this before, but another area that we are zealously advocating for is the other side of downtown, in and around the Regent Street area. The city is going through a comprehensive plan rewrite right now. They're actually just doing an update, some amendments here midway through. And we have proposed as an organization, DMI, to add more density in and around Regent Street on both the north and south sides of the street. We're working very closely with the team of the planning staff and the planning commission to try to get more density in an area where we can see more housing, student housing, housing in dense forms that we badly need in the city right now. We are coming close to finding out what's going to happen with that. And we're working with the city on what's called the special map note, a series of special map notes in and around the parcels of that area to be able to add more density if those projects meet the requirements of a conditional use. We think this is a good progress moving forward. We've already seen one project come through even before these amendments were moved forward, with a project with Wisconsin Housing Preservation Coalition on the Regent Street, where they were moved through on the consent agenda, and it was 1 story higher than what is currently allowed. So we're seeing some positive developments happening in and around the Regent Street. We'll give you an update next month as to what happens, and we try to add more density. One more personal item, but I think also important for the health of downtown, is air service. I happen to be the chair of Dane County Regional Airports, the commission. That was harder to say than I thought. I don't know why that was harder to say. Let's try that again. The Dane County Regional Airport Commission. I am the chair of that commission. And we've been working actively with our friends at the airport who have hired a new person, Tom Pazier, who is director of Air Service Development Forum. We're trying to add more air service to our airport. This is a key economic issue, not only for downtown, but the entire region. And we're proud to be going on many of the headquarter visits to airlines, including we went to Alaska Airlines just a few days ago to Seattle to pitch for a new service between Madison and some cities out west. We're thankful for the airport and their invitation to invite myself, Allie Westman-Chin, the president and CEO of Destination Madison, and or Zach Brandon, president and CEO of the Greater Madison Chamber, to attend each of these meetings to really sell Madison and talk about why it's important to get more air service. We're hoping for more positive announcements soon, which will be good for our entire economy. Lastly, we've been very busy with the International Downtown Association. I also serve on the International Downtown's board of directors, and we had our annual conference with over 1,500 folks in Chicago in just a few weeks ago. We were so excited to have 6 members of both the DMI and Madison Central Business Improvement District team there to learn from others about what's happening in downtown. It was a really, really great conference, and we were very excited to take part and actually be speakers in a few of the items. I also happen to be the chair, I guess I shouldn't say happen, I am the chair of the IDA's co-chair of the U.S. Government Relations Group. And we are doing significant federal advocacy that could be positive for our downtown. One of the areas we're seeing real positive trends is in an office conversion bill, which, along with a coalition of other downtown and real estate organizations, are working diligently to advance this legislation to provide a tax credit for conversions of unused office space to affordable housing. We're seeing bipartisan support. We have both Republican and Democrats that are sponsoring this bill, and we should see the bill coming out in the next few weeks, obviously depending on what's happening in Congress overall. This could be very positive because office conversions are very difficult to do without some sort of incentive. And we're hoping that the federal government will step up. We'll continue to monitor that as well. Along with office conversions, we're also looking federally at addressing homelessness issues and providing more fundings for organizations like the City of Madison to be able to help our unhoused population here in Madison, ensuring that we have public safety and providing more federal grants like the Byrne Criminal Justice Grant, a grant that we are currently using in downtown, $1 million grant that the City of Madison through their Community Development Division moved forward on to help improve the safety in downtown, namely reducing both gun crimes and sexual assaults in downtown. We're also trying to find solutions for the missing middle housing crisis, which is happening now. I know a subject that we're going to talk to Chris Gillings about in just a few seconds here, who's with SENER. And then also, lastly, helping secure more federal funding for bid downtown projects, including through earmarks, which are back, especially mandated spending, that we're seeing more of our downtown organizations taking being able to use for their downtown projects. So there's a lot happening here in advocacy in DMI, and we're excited to be part of many issues, not only local government, which we're going to talk about today with our great friend, Deputy Mayor Linda Vakunta, but also state with Vision 2030 and federal with the office conversion bills as well. I want to take a few seconds, though, before we get to Dr. Vakunta, to welcome our major series sponsor, Chris Gillings, who is a Senior Vice President for Business Development for SENER. Chris, how are you today?
Jason, doing well. Yourself?
We're doing great. How's everything in SENER? Lots of positive things happening with you all, correct?
Yeah, busy. It's the end of the year, right? It's the need for affordable housing, particularly as we've seen inflation and interest rates really kind of form a double whammy, both against for rent units and for sale units, driving the cost of housing even higher. So the need continues, and we continue to try to advance on that front wherever we can find space to. I was actually really pleased to be with Dr. Vakunta about a week and a half ago at a grand opening of a project that we invested in a little bit outside of downtown, Jason. So not
just barely,
but the Andre Apartments with our good friends at Moving Out and Red Caboose Daycare, who has been an institution in downtown Madison for a very, very long time. Just an example of one of the many ways of how the city is continuing to be a progressive leader on trying to make sure that they support affordable housing efforts. So I guess from those of us at SENER who share that same motivation and spirit, Dr. Vakunta, our thanks to you, not only for being there. It was great to see you and to celebrate the opening of that impactful building, but also for your and Mayor Rose Conway's continued support of both affordable housing and workforce housing in the city. Both of them continue to be challenges. And one of the great reasons that we support DMI is so that we make sure there continues to be a voice for these sorts of conversations, and to support Jason, you and the team's excellent work on what you do to advocate for making sure that our downtown and our city more broadly is a welcoming and inclusive place for all people, regardless of any sort of demographic, but also regardless of income. Everybody should benefit from being a part of a healthy Madison.
Well, Chris, I mean, thank you for your great work. That one project alone, the site with the Red Caboose and Moving Out's affordable housing project just fits so many of our needs, right? With a crisis both in affordable housing, but also childcare. As a father of an 8-month-old, now I'm seeing that issue happen right in front of our eyes. Some statistic I saw, we're thousands of slots down for the number of kids we need to have here. So thank you to Senair's investment in that important project. And it's great to see Red Caboose. I know they were in a downtown institution, but just on the other side of downtown. It's great to have them in a new facility. So thank you again for Senair for not only partnering with us here, but partnering and investing in important projects like that.
Thank you, Jason.
Absolutely. All right. We are on to our special guest, and I hope she calls me a friend. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know.
We'll see how this interview goes, right? We are excited to welcome Deputy Mayor Dr. Linda Vakunta, who works so tirelessly for the city in many different issues, including economic development. She also is a member of the DMI Board of Directors. It's so exciting to see you here today, and we're going to talk about all things city and what the priorities for the mayor's office is. Dr. Vakunta, how are you doing today?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me here. And thank you, Chris. It was really lovely to be at the Andre's apartment. It was a wonderful energy. And I always say when you're in a space and the energy is wonderful, it's because of what everybody has brought together for that space to have that atmosphere. So it was really great.
I like that. I hope we're having that same sort of positive atmosphere.
We are friends, Jason. For everybody
okay,
listening,
yes.
Jason and I are friends.
We got through the first difficult question.
We are friends. If you see us in the same place around Madison, we are most likely competing with who can do the most push-ups.
That's true. Dr. Vakunta almost always wins. So we'll just put that out there right now.
He lets me win. So
yes, please. So Dr. Vakunta, let's just get right into it. There is a lot happening in downtown. We just talked about several advocacy issue updates. And the city, and the mayor's office has certainly many top priorities. What are the top priorities for the mayor's office and the mayor and your team right now for both the city and downtown?
Well, thank you for that wonderful question. I just want to present my PowerPoint, which I think it's very beautiful.
I do too. I like that background a lot. I could not have created that. You would have just gotten a picture of the Capitol for me. So well done.
So, for those who have been following Mayor Rhodes Conway, we know that when she was first elected, her priorities were affordable housing, transportation, sustainability, racial equity, and social justice. And then I think about a year and some months into her first term, COVID happened, and a lot of things happened during that time. And so I would say, you see that affordable housing is still top on her list, effective transportation system, sustainability, of course. And now I would say she would call out a healthy economy. It's not that she didn't work on it before, but when the pandemic happened and businesses were affected, it brought that to the forefront. So I would say that's something she would call out. Racial equity and social justice, of course, and public health and public safety. So I would say those are some of the top priorities right now. Of course, there are always many things that the city is working on. In terms of downtown, an effective transportation system is really important. She's a big advocate for multiple forms of transportation, not just driving. I always tell people that when we were first brought into office, her deputies, she gave us bus passes because she really wanted us to take the bus. Biking, she really advocates for multiple forms of movement and transportation in our city. And of course, for downtown affordable housing, I think Jason spoke a little bit about student housing. Chris mentioned workforce housing. So a big priority now is not just affordable housing. I really should have said housing in general, because we need to increase the number of units in our city and in downtown. But we know that workforce housing and affordable housing is important so that we can continue to have a diverse group of people downtown, like Chris mentioned. Of course, good roads is important for downtown. So there's the John Nolan improvement project that is going on. Kudos to both the mayor and several staff members who've worked to get grants from the federal government. There's the big project on State Street, which is the State Street campus garage, which will also have an intercity bus terminal. Again, the word here is effective transportation. And making sure that it reaches as many people and that people move fast and they don't feel like they have to use cars. And of course, with that, we're hoping that there will be some housing there to serve students and others. Small business development and support is really important for downtown. I think Jason would agree that there have been some improvements on with businesses coming back to life downtown, especially on State Street. But that was a big focus right after the pandemic, that we can help businesses begin to thrive again. And that's why you see when I say my topic says downtown is Madison and Madison is downtown, because if downtown does well, the entire Madison does well. But also, if other parts of Madison is doing well, downtown will do well. More people will come here and spend money downtown and explore downtown. So that's important for the mayor. Britain Lot, of course, Jason mentioned that it's in early stages. A lot of community engagement to hear what the community wants. And of course, the very exciting Lake Monona Waterfront Initiative. I saw some renditions of what we're hearing from the community, what people want, and the pictures are gorgeous. They're beautiful, and we hope it will come to life so that it can really continue to make our downtown a vibrant place. So I would say those are some of the things that are top of mind for the city as a whole and for downtown in particular.
One quick, I just want to say a big thank you on one of those items, the Lake Monona waterfront. The mayor has been a stalwart proponent for revitalizing the waterfront, really making those connections between the downtown and the waterfront, but also the Near East Side and the South Side. And I would say thank you to her vision for expanding it from just the original Law Park, which is basically the parks bounded sort of in downtown, that now stretches Machinery all the way through to Olin Park. And, I remember being on stage with her for Cap Time's Idea Fest event, and she said, no, we want to be bigger and bolder with that. And she's continued to do that. And I also want to say a thank you for the extra $15 million in federal funding that we received for the reconstruction of that of John Nolan, which is happening in 2025. But difficult for downtown. We need to happen, but it's going to add more pedestrian space. Quick question though on affordable housing. Obviously, this is a massive issue, and it's been a big priority for the mayor. We've seen several initiatives come from the mayor's office, including, it's going to be death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? You're going to have to do a whole series of things. You had reform of build by right, a certain amount of buildings that happened. You've changed ADU language. You've brought the density bonus for affordable housing into downtown. What are some of the other initiatives and the things the mayor's office wants to do to ensure that we are getting more housing into the system more quickly? So we're just building supply, but also we're building intentional supply with affordable housing.
Well, she has put more money into her budget this time around. She's been increasing the affordable housing fund. I think that's really a big piece, because when developers come into town, they do have to look at the cost benefit. And with materials being expensive, it's very easy to just build market rate housing. So I think really the biggest thing that she has done and that we will be seeing moving forward is increasing the affordable housing fund, which can also allow us to speak into some of the requirements. She really is about green building to save residents and families on costs for electricity and all other things. So I would say that's a big thing if people are looking at this budget, is the fact that she's increasing the amount of money that's going into our affordable housing fund.
And then what also, I think we're gonna get to the budget in a second here, but another follow-up is the land banking. And it's not something we've
Oh,
seen
yes.
downtown, but
Yes.
you've certainly seen around Park Street and other areas where the city is purchasing property and then you have
Yes.
more say. I think it's not a land bank project per se, but obviously the Lake Street ramp here in downtown, you all own the property and are able to sort of dictate what happens. Are we seeing
Yes.
more land banking and more potential for that in budgets coming forward?
Yes, so she has put money for land banking. Thank you for mentioning that. Oh, I didn't think about it because we're so focused on downtown, and a lot of the purchase
Yeah,
has
you're
happened,
correct. Yeah.
has happened in South Madison. But yes, there's still money there, and the alders are also very interested in that. And I know some alders are thinking of adding more money to the land banking funds. But that's an initiative that will continue. Our economic development division staff continue to keep an eye out for properties that we can buy. Of course, things are getting more expensive, but that's a really, really important initiative for us to keep an eye on so that we can have more say. When we talk about workforce housing, affordable housing, the city can push the narrative in a certain way if we own the land, again with the funds, if we can put funds and make special requests to developers. So all of that is very important as we increase units, but also affordability.
That, the next question, sir, is about the mayor's budget, right? And what are we seeing in this 2024 budget that was just released several weeks ago? What are the priorities? And I think for us here in downtown, what are the priorities in downtown in this 2024 annual budget?
So I will first of all give a brief overview of what a budget or what the budget is. I never want to assume that everybody understands it, especially
please. Yes, thank you. I learn something every time.
On
Yes.
YouTube. I mean, this is stuff that maybe a lot of your audiences know, but in case there's some people who don't know. So there is the capital budget and the operating budget, and the capital really focuses on infrastructure, on things like our parks, our libraries, improving our libraries, so that it stays to standard. Our streets, we mentioned streets, bridges, clean water, bike trails. When you think of the structure, that's the capital budget. And then of course there's operating, which you can see the amounts. There's just over 400 million, and that really pays for staff. It pays for community services, which is like contracts that we put out with partners, and of course programs like snow plowing, clean water. I know PFAS has been a big topic of conversation in recent times, and to have clean water we need money into that, our transit systems, our libraries. So for anybody who is sort of new to the budget, those are the two main pockets that or documents that we have. And then you asked about the highlights. So when you look at the budget documents, to me, to make it easy to understand, there are several buckets where we invest, right? So let's just go through them quickly. There's land use and transportation, which is where our bus, the pavement, your sidewalks, and all of that. There's the neighborhood and housing, and we've been talking about housing already. So that's one bucket. We have effective government, which includes where we work. For example, this building where I'm sitting in is a bit old, and it needs some improvements. So, but also our fire system, the metro equipment. So what makes a government effective? What allows us to do our work well? The IT, this morning we're having a little bit of an internet issue before we're starting, but that's effective government. If I can't have conversations with Jason and Chris like this, well, then there's a gap in communication. And of course, health and safety, that includes lighting, street lighting, that includes public safety, what our police needs, that includes the camera system. There's a reason why our city is great. And I think I can say that we're not perfect, but we're great. But that's because we pay attention to these things. And of course, there's economy and opportunity. And we started speaking briefly about businesses and businesses doing well. There's culture and character, which is really about the arts, You know, when people come to Madison, I think they always feel that we're such a beautiful city. It doesn't just happen automatically. We have to think about it. When you drive down the street and you see a building with beautiful art on there, and some of the arts tell very important stories, it doesn't just happen. We have to be conscious about how we approach culture and art. Otherwise, the place is not so nice. So it's important. And of course, we've spoken about sustainability, green and resilience. So when you look at the budget book, especially for the capital budget, these are the big pockets that you will see. So I can go back and perhaps just touch on a few things. And if you're watching, you can always pause. I don't want to go through every single thing. But on the land use and transportation, of course, there's what we need with Metro. There are sidewalks. I've been to cities where the sidewalk is like not not up to standard. And, you know, for someone who is able-bodied, that's okay. But we get calls from people who are in wheelchairs. And so it's important that we're ensuring that our transportation environment works for everybody, not just those who are able-bodied with 2 legs, but those who are using, you know, wheels, and that it's leveled and everything is working well for them. We talked about the John Nolan Drive, which will, yes, it will cause some disruption, but we're grateful that we will be fixing that coming up. I think it will change transportation to downtown. And then we think about affordable housing. As I mentioned, the mayor is adding money to her affordable housing fund, affordable housing lending. We have a little bit of money for seniors to ensure that seniors can stay in their houses. That's also important. Sometimes when we talk about affordable housing or people staying in their houses, we don't mention that, but the city has that as well. Land banking, which Jason mentioned already, is really critical. And then we have a big project happening in South Madison, which is TIT 51. The triangle that is happening, I think that's considered downtown too. Would you say that's downtown, Jason?
Yeah, absolutely. Very much so. Yes, very
Okay,
much so.
good. And then in housing, another big project which we want to thank DMI. I think I can say that you all have been very supportive, is the Permanent Men's Shelter Initiative. For those who don't know, the shelter was really downtown in a church, and we're trying to build a purpose-built shelter to serve men. And there we will have services that would allow their stay in a shelter to be short, because we want them to move into permanent housing. We want them to have the tools to return to contributing to society. So I would say those are some of the big things that you would find in the neighborhood and housing segment. I mentioned a little bit about effective government. I don't need to go into that. But health and safety, we will be doing some renovations in South Madison with our public health clinic there. There's a whole redevelopment happening in that part of South Madison that will affect fire, but hopefully it will improve our services for the years to come. I mentioned economy and culture. So a lot of our TIDs, when we create them, we do put aside money for things like culture and character and supporting small businesses. For example, with the TID for South Madison, we're being very intentional about putting money not only for affordable housing, but that will support businesses to stay there, because we don't want to cause displacement. All of this effort is to prevent displacement. So you can see some of the TIDs that feature in the budget, and some of the money that will be going through economy and culture. I should mention, for those who might not know, that something very cool that the city is doing. We're doing a 10-year study with TIT 51 in South Madison, and we have partners at UW-Madison who will be helping us engage residents to learn about what initiatives are important to them and how we continue to improve what the city is doing as we implement this TID. I think it's a very good thing to continue to engage community on a continuous basis, because things change and we want to continue to hear from them. On the culture and economy, culture and character, you can see the Monona Terrace improvement work, playground and accessibility improvement. our library collections. The library was so important during the pandemic, so we always want to keep that as a great space for everybody. Randall Imagination Center on the east side, it's been a project that's been worked on for many years, and we're glad that there's money in this budget for that. We mentioned the Lake Monona waterfront. And then green and resilience, sustainability, oh my gosh, so many things. There's a lot in there. So again, that's why I made the PowerPoint. You all can just read through that. But I would say those are some of the highlights under the capital budget. In the operating budget, a significant amount of that money goes towards personnel. So just over 250 million is for paying staff. And I believe a study was done recently that said that we are actually understaffed somewhat, because I think sometimes people are worried, oh, you have too many staff, all this money is going towards staff. But HR reported recently that we are understaffed at the moment. But I think it's prudent. I think it means that we're thoughtful about just hiring personnel and making sure that we don't just over hire. I think that's important. Debt service, paying back some of the money that we borrow to do the infrastructures. And then there are other little expenses which you all can see on the slide. Downtown in the budget, of course, we care about downtown quite a bit. So these are just highlights of a few things. I'm sure Jason probably combs through the budget more than we do.
Yeah, I've been known to do that. Yes.
But I just want to highlight a few of those for you all. We have, of course, the Regent Street, and the mayor is putting aside money for an affordable housing project there. We have the State Street TID, and then we are actually doing an experiment for the State Street pedestrian mall. I think Jason is excited about that.
Very much so. Thank you for your support. Absolutely.
Good. And hopefully the businesses are excited about it too. There is the Wilson Street and some pre-development funds for the Britain lot there. There's the downtown strategic visioning plan, which Jason and I will touch a little bit more on later. And the mayor has put a little bit of money there for that. And of course, there's the small business development program. And yeah, we want our businesses to thrive downtown. We really do. We care about it. So the mayor is putting money towards that. And the State Street Garage, the mayor is adding money to it because we know that the cost of construction just continues to go up and up and up. So she's adding some money for that. So I would say those are the highlights. I'm sure Jason has more.
Well, yeah, thank you. We certainly appreciate the mayor's continued work to highlight downtown and to continue to prioritize, some of the important initiatives that are happening downtown. One that I would add is the 1% for the arts on the Lake Street ramp. Is several years ago, probably 6-7 years ago, the city council moved forward on any public project. 1% of that project has to go to public art. So roughly the Lake Street ramp is a $47 million project. So roughly $470,000 goes into art. We've been working very closely with the mayor's office, with the alders in that area, to prioritize the art in Hawthorne Court, which is an alley that is behind the ramp, sandwiched between the Francis Street ramp and the Lake Street ramp, bounded by State Street and University Avenue. And it's a really dark, not very good area. And we think that public art can make a big difference. So we certainly are thankful for the mayor's commitment there. I do also want to say thank you for the commitment for the downtown strategic visioning plan. This is something that DMI is very excited about and something that we've discussed at this advocacy update before. It's a public-private partnership to really reimagine what downtown could look like, with vibrancy, with business mix, with programming, what happens in the right of way. And potentially, if we get good results from the experiment of closing the 400 through 600 blocks of State Street, what could a permanent new lower half of State Street look like? Why is the strategic visioning plan so important for the mayor, and what does she hope to get out of it?
I should say that I think when I think about it, and then I'll say what the mayor
Yes, but yeah, that's a good point. We're not talking to the mayor, we're talking to you. So yes, what are your priorities?
I think I would word it as a private public partnership, which I think is very cool, actually, because I think often in these types of initiatives, the public approaches the private entities and asks for partnership. But in this case, DMI and other partners came to the city and said, can we do this? So kudos to you, Jason, really, for doing that. I think that was really great. That's how we change our city. That's how we change our communities, when everybody is proactive about creating the space that we want for everybody. How does the mayor feel about it? The mayor is very, very excited about this initiative. And what does she hope to gain from it? I think one is really perspective on what people want. This mayor, I really think, is really about engagement. She's always wanting to improve community engagement so that we can truly hear what people want. I always tell people the example of how she requires us to respond to every single phone call, email, any contact with the office, and she will. So we have a daily sheet that lists everybody who called, everybody who emails, and then if anybody responded to that person. So she goes through that herself every day to ensure that we did that. And I think that's really what she wants from this strategic visioning, is what do the people want? And of course, she wants downtown to be for everybody, but how do people want that to be for everybody? Because we could want the same thing, but how we want it can be different. So I think she wants to hear that. How do we want it to be for everybody? And I have heard her say, we want to make downtown for all of Madison, which is why she's very passionate about transportation, ensuring that people can come downtown. I've been in meetings with her where she's saying to the Overture, hey, can you get bus passes for your employees so that they can come not only to work, but to enjoy other aspects of downtown. She's excited about the placemaking and diversity of thought in placemaking, right? So if we truly got perspectives from non-traditional people who would give thought into what a downtown looks like, what would that be, right? So I don't know, we haven't spoken much about what the engagement would be like, but I'm curious, and I'm sure the mayor is curious. If we went to South Madison, if we went to the north side and say, hey, we're doing the strategic planning for downtown, what will make you come to downtown? She's excited about those types of voices, really. So I think I would say the first thing that she's excited about is just that it's a private public thing, that you all thought about it and you want to do it with the city. And then just to truly hear, like, let's envision the downtown for 50 years to come where everybody is welcomed. So I would say those are some of the things that makes her exciting. She's always thinking about the future. So like when we're building structures, she's always pushing staff, like, let's build for 50 years, multi-use things. Single use is not going to work anymore because we have limited land space. So she really, really thinks futuristically and planning for the future. So she is very excited about the strategic visioning effort, really.
Well, good, because so are we. And honestly, the engagement part of it is one of the most important sections. And we're going to put significant resources into that so that we're checking, all four corners of the city, the suburbs. What do folks want to see in downtown? To truly ask that question and then listen. And then, then you create the plan. I also want to say thank you to the mayor for pushing us to ensure that this new strategic visioning plan is not just a plan that gets dusty on a shelf. We've seen this so many times before, but what we're doing to guard against this, and this was a conversation that the mayor and I had, is we're actually adding 2 positions to hedge that, right? A director of placemaking and economic development and support staff for that position that helps implement, one helps run the actual plan itself, the creation of the plan, but then helps implement what's coming out from it. You have to have a champion for that. And we're very proud to be able to house that employee here in DMI. So Dr. Linda Vakunta, thank you so much for all you do for downtown, for the organization. We thank you for serving on our board. It has been an absolute pleasure to work with you for several years. Obviously, we have difficult conversations at times, but we do appreciate your willingness to have those difficult conversations and the communication. So Dr. Vakunta, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. And thank you, Jason, too, for being a true partner of not being afraid to call us in when you've needed to. I think during the pandemic, it was a very difficult time when you talk about having hard conversations. I think we had a lot of difficult conversations. And I just want to give kudos really to Madison and several leaders in Madison for doing that. Because it's not like, I feel like we're a community now, and it's not always been that way. While we may think differently, have different approaches, there's more of a calling in, I think, in our leadership landscape right now. And I think you really, really demonstrate that. And it's helpful because this work requires—
Thank you. But so do you. I mean, you know, you're the one that helped stand up the group that we've been participating with, us, the Chamber, Destination Madison, MadRep, Black Chamber, Latino Chamber, Hmong Chamber, all these different chambers and working well together. So I really do appreciate that. I appreciate that all you do for the downtown. I also appreciate our major series sponsors and our good friends at Scenair, also the Fiore companies and Hush Blackwell for making our advocacy update series a priority. We really thank you. Thank you all very much. I want to say a thank you to all of you for joining us here today and for continuing to support downtown. We hope to see you downtown soon, going to a show, going to eat dinner, going to eat lunch with a shopping bag, maybe all of the above. That's what makes downtown work. So thank you for your support of downtown, and we'll see you at the next advocacy update soon.